David Zammit, aka Diz, and this is The Force Always.
Okay, welcome to The Force Always. It's on my t-shirt. I'm David Zammit, aka Diz, once again. And I'm back in Melbourne, Australia. And it's been about over a week now since Orlando and Miami, which was where I went afterwards. And it was a great journey. And the friends that I got to meet and things like that was fantastic. Great events, hard work, but it was great. But anyway, let's get into the Star Wars news. The Star Wars news this time has Episode 9 has a release date, May 24. That's May 24, 2019. That's right. So it's been announced. It's bringing it back to the American summer, our winter. That's Australia's winter. I think it's actually a good move for the sake of people getting time off work to see these movies, especially multiple times. So for the blue collar type workers, it's very good. To more news, Rebels will be starting back in September, so it's fairly quiet out there on the Star Wars front right now, especially after exhaustion of Star Wars Celebration. But it comes back in September, which sort of is interesting because it will sort of coincide with the Episode 8 release. So something in Rebels could be working itself into Episode 8, as Rebels did last time with Saw Gerrera sort of coming in afterwards. So I'm sure there's going to be a bit of a surprise. To more news, D23 is about 8 weeks away. It's about July 14 to July 16. It's a big Disney Expo, which Star Wars will be a part of. And expect the young Han Solo name to be announced, possibly poster. And I think also expect the new animation, if there's one in the works, to be announced. So that will be the two things that the expectations that I'll be looking for, and I'm sure a lot of Star Wars fans will be too. Young Han Solo could have been announced at Star Wars Celebration 2017 or in Orlando, but it didn't make its way there. Anyway, so that's the news this summer. It's a little bit empty this week with the news, only due to, I think, the exhaustion after Star Wars Celebration. It's a bit of a quiet period. And sort of thankfully I love Star Wars, but you know, you can't have a chocolate cake every day. Anyway, so let's get into the views. Views this time around, the big talk on the internet since the Last Jedi trailer has dropped is, why has Kylo Ren's scar moved or disappeared? Look, I'm sure there is going to be, and I should say this is not a predictions part of the show. Views is not predictions. Views is my story ideas that I like to put out there, and my story idea, and I'm sure at the same time that it's going to be explained in Episode 8. Look, I'm sure the technology in outer space, by Episode 8 is pretty advanced, where things are going to be rectified, put together. You have we don't know. Look, I'm sure it's going to be explained, but it would be great to sort of see that some sort of technological type of machine sort of has altered him in a physical way rather than a machine-like manner, which would be a different sort of take on a person being rebuilt, like the older days was Anakin being built into Darth Vader, even the alien that was in General Grievous, but this time it's human being fixed up in a human sort of way. So I'm sure this is going to be sort of a futuristic techno sort of thing happening in Star Wars, The Last Jedi. So that's my viewpoint. I'd like to see him undergo some sort of futuristic surgery for alteration to his look, fixing him up temporarily maybe. Anyway, So now let's get into the reviews. The reviews this time where I got a chance to see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. It was unexpected here in Australia. It was released a couple of days ago. Look, I was not a massive fan of the first. I thought it was great. It just wasn't like, it wasn't my world, but it was very good. Like, I really did get into it. I think it was a fantastic Marvel adventure, and Marvel is really, just hitting with all their might. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was, and the reason why I want to bring this up is in relation to Star Wars, and I was sort of explain that, but I give it an 8.5. That's right, an 8.5 out of 10. Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I reckon the hardcore fans may think it's okay, a bit weak. That's expected, it's number 2. But I thought the whole progression of the story was really good. Probably for a little kid, it was a little bit too complex. But the style of the film, and its ridiculous but fantastic look, I thought it was a really good stylistic look to the film. But the story has good and bad, but the good has the good and bad in it, and the bad has the good and bad in it as well. And the breakdown of that on the two sides, showing the grey areas, I found the most interesting, as the progression of us nerds is less about black and white, good and bad, but more about the grey areas. So this is the connection I would like to really see in The Last Jedi. Have the good and bad show its grey areas, creating interesting, points about the good side and the bad side of both good and bad. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 really achieved that. So it was a really entertaining, it had a sort of passion to it, and it was good. All the main characters sort of fell in line in having their own screen time, and so it was entertaining. So 8.5 out of 10 for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and my reasoning by mentioning that film is due to wanting to see that sort of feel in Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Good and bad, with the grey areas being dissected. Anyway, so let's get into the interviews this time. And the interviews is going to be about 2Q. And what does 2Q mean? 2Q is going to be 2 questions I'll ask myself and answer myself, for you people at home, even for myself. So 2Q, 2 questions, that's what it's all about. So the 2 questions I'm going to ask myself and answer. First question is, when should the next Star Wars celebration be? Now, as Disney has announced, it has announced that there's no celebration for next year. That's 2018, which is a bit unfortunate, but I can understand. It's quite an event, and there's nothing really there to really showcase massive things. I think Han Solo film, that young Han Solo film, needs a bit of advertising, but it's the only thing that's really coming out next year. And so I think when it should be, now you've got pretty much in 2019, about 4 or 5 months before the release of Episode 9, which sort of poses an interesting point. January, people are still on holidays in 2019. February, people are going back to school, or going back to working, their life underway again since the holidays. February, March is when people have just sort of gotten started, and the next one is April, which we've had Star Wars Celebration 2017 in. It did work, it just sort of interrupts Easter a bit, but that would be about a month before the release date of Episode 9, which I think could be the best time. So I'm saying April 2019 is going to be the best time for Star Wars Celebration. It will help assist the last trailer that we see for Episode 9. It will assist the future of what Star Wars is going to take, because the lead up to episode 9 is going to be quite intense with advertising, stuff like that. You don't want to interrupt all that flow in what's happening after at that point. So from that point, at the last minute before Star Wars ends, so people sort of not left in limbo, is to explain the future of Star Wars, the movie releases. Like, you're going to have more Star Wars stories, you're going to have more episodic films, you're going to have animation, you're going to have TV, what it is, that's the best time. And it would be great also for the last big trailer. And obviously, being a Star Wars celebration, or the amazement and wonder of all the things available there. So April 2019 is the best time for Star Wars Celebration, the next one. And where? So my next question is, where should Star Wars Celebration be? Look, I'd love it to come to Australia, but there's no relevance in coming to Australia. There's nothing about the production that has an Australian element. The prequels were partly filmed in Australia, which would have had the relevance, but the new trilogy doesn't. I'd love it here, but I just don't think it would work for the relevance. London or Europe, it'd be okay, but I think the ultimate location is America. I mean, just Star Wars is an American franchise without being so over patriotic. It's, it doesn't, sort of have you God bless America and things like that, which is not a bad thing, but it's just, for people coming overseas, it's a little bit inundating. But I think America would be great. I would actually love to see the finale be in New York. The only problem in New York is a congested, intense, crazy, funky city that it could cause extra mayhem. But I'd love it to be in an iconic sort of city, sort of setting like New York. I wouldn't mind it going back to Orlando. It was good. Again, my criticism of the whole celebration 2017 was the organisation, especially with the lines. That really needs to be rectified in how long the line was and getting that line moved from one location to the next. That was quite a walk. When people were skipping line, I saw this. It just was really unorganised that way. So, but the convention centre in Orlando was fantastic. It was a great venue. But my ultimate venue would be somewhere in New York. I love New York. It's just an intense city, bringing something intense again. Anyway, so that's my answer. It should be in New York. That's the where should Star Wars Celebration, the next one, be New York. And the when, it should be April 2019. Anyway, so until next time, this has been The Force Always. I'm David Zammit. Keep rockin'.